Okay, last attempt. I am so confused today. I'm not quite sure why. So sorry, but you will have to go through that, since I actually want to use this video as a starting point to get back to the initial style of headphone reviews that I did a while ago, which means just raw, uncut, therefore a little bit more everywhere with my mind and a little bit more confusing for a few people, but I enjoy these so much more than I did the little bit more structured ones. And no, this is actually not the headphone that I'm gonna review today. The Odyssey LTD2C I just got a few hours ago. I'm already blown away, but that, along with some other ones, like for example the Biodynamic Amaron Home and the Sennheiser HD660S that I review at the moment, are the reasons why this review today actually won't be quite as detailed as usually, because I didn't give the Akg K550 Mark II and Mark III just the same proper treatment as I usually do, and therefore I will just leave out all the fluff and go only into real important parts. But therefore already I have to start with the price, because that's a little bit of a weird one. In the US I found prices for the Mark II for around $200, for the Mark III around $230, so very similar. But in Germany, especially where I got it from Cyberport, the Mark II costs just 99 euros. Some people say they are refurbished. I didn't see that anywhere written down, and the normal price then would be 140 euros. Where the Mark II or Mark III costs $200. And let me actually start with the one thing. I personally see no reason, not even without any price difference, to go for the Mark III instead of the Mark II unless you need the detachable cable, because I actually think that the Mark II is the better headphone, price independent. But before that, let's actually take a quick look at them. Now, as I already said, the Mark III have the detachable cable, not the Mark II, so this one is fixed. Other than that, in terms of design, they are extremely similar. What I noticed is that there is a little bit of a different color going on. And you won't see this due to my lighting and everything looking purple anyways, which I still not know why. The color's a little bit different. Doesn't really make or break anything though. The ear pads, slightly softer on the Mark III compared to the Mark II. Doesn't mean that that's more comfortable. I'll get into that later on. But otherwise, the whole mechanism here, great. It feels even a little bit tighter on the Mark III, but already this way, nice steps and even written down, which is something that I always like, and they never changed on their own. Now the design of the ear pads is a little bit something weird, but I'm getting into that in just a few seconds. Now of course you get the 1/4-inch adapter, which as you can see here is very subtly integrated into the whole design, because you wouldn't even notice it. It looks like one piece, which is not quite the same on the Mark III, so less subtle. Not that that changes much. The cable though, absolutely the same quality, very, actually quite thick, but flexible. It didn't really do anything bad, so I'm okay with that. Otherwise, design, they feel good. This nice flexible metal here, and everything else, you can rotate them both in the same direction, not in the other one, but enough flex, and everything else feels really nice. Now my problem with these headphones a little bit, at least for me, someone who likes big cutouts, I'm not the biggest fan of the aesthetics of this one, just because as you can see, such a big ear cup, and then the ear cut isn't even big enough to fit my old ear in, and therefore it feels actually more like a very soft and comfortable on-ear, but an on-ear after all. And let me just compare something here with those. The the Biodynamic Amaron Home, and as you can see, the ear cups on the AKG are actually bigger, and yet the cutout is smaller, because on the Amaron Home my ear fits in perfectly, not the case here. So I'm not quite sure why the ear cups have to be that big, but still not big enough inside. Which actually already leads me to the comfort, because if I put those on, no matter what I do, I just can't get over the feeling of those not always being properly on my head. Also, the padding here on the top is super thin and almost non-existent, and on this headphone with this hard, even though flexible metal band, you will actually notice it, which is weird, because if I would take, for example now, the Odyssey LTD2C, which pretty much have nothing here, this is just leather, I put those on and I press here, and I don't actually know how this mechanism works for it to be that great, because you don't feel anything here. This is crazy comfortable. Of course, these are on a completely different price level, but this is one of the few headphones where I most noticeably noticed the headband, and it's just not crazy comfortable, especially with the fact that the ear cups just feel more like on ear. This is just so weird. And At the first moment when you try these on, and I gave it to my brother and wanted to see his reaction, and he said super comfortable, because I have to say, the ear cups, super crazy, super soft and thick enough. But this is great for like the first half hour, maybe an hour. After that, I just noticed, after all, something pushing onto my ears. If you use on-ears, or if you don't have an issue with something touching on your ear, even for a longer period of time, these will be very nice. So just keep in mind, headband, you feel it. Ear cups, you feel it. Other than that, clamping force is great. And if they would have just made just that, the ear cups inside, the cutout bigger, I think this would have been one of the most comfortable headphones. And I would have been totally fine with that fact. But just that is a fact that leaves me a little bit wanting for more. Now the isolation is quite good, because I hear myself actually noticeably more muffled, because there is so much around you, and I guess that makes up for that. Now in terms of powering them, they are absolutely moderate. A good sound card would be already fine. I still think that a little bit of something better like a headphone amp and DAC will improve, but it's not by that much, but it's noticeable. Now let's get into the sound. And I'm actually gonna quickly cover the differences between the Mark II and Mark III. Now comfort-wise, let me get back to that. I actually found the Mark II a little bit more comfortable, because the pads here are even softer, and therefore you just feel even more so on your head. So very, very similar, like 95%, but I would even then prefer the Mark II. Sound-wise though, it's actually the same, because let's narrow it down to the two basic things. The Mark III have a little bit more bass, just a little bit, and that's the main thing. They don't have quite the clear present highs, and that's just something important for me. If you want a little bit more streamlined, less natural, maybe less neutral sound, something more mainstream-lined, actually the Mark III would be better. But for someone who wanted a little bit more neutral and just a little bit more sparkle in the highs, it's not by much, but it is audible, especially in a direct comparison. Go for the Mark II, and that's personally why I think the Mark II doesn't really matter the price if you don't need a replaceable cable. But especially in Germany, if you pay 99 for those and 200 for the Mark III, and if they break the cable or something like that, which you can replace here, at least not easy, you could just get a second pair. That's just the thing. Now let me try to describe the sound just riddle roughly, because I used them long enough, but it has been a while since I've tried so many other ones. I personally like the sound a lot. A commenter said that he found them very canny, and the sound was very close, and obviously since it's a closed back headphone, it doesn't have a wide soundstage, but I think maybe his one was broken. I've seen this already. It happened to me. I just had a review unit of a headphone where I got two ones. Once was fine and the other one was somewhat kind of broken in terms of highs, which sounded very weird, and with that I would have kind of agreed. It's possible, but he said his no soundstage, no nothing. I think they have a solid soundtrack for a closed one. It is actually for a closed one a little bit above average, and I like that. And this headphone, for a good reason, got quite a lot of awards when it came out, and kind of with a Mark III, it just means if you put up into making a second and third revision, the headphone must have been a success, and I actually like that, because for the price of around 200, you are already quite close to something at least like a maybe refurbished Sennheiser 600S, and not 600 or the HD 650s. Quite far off though from the 660S though, and those definitely do a better job, but it depends. I think they sound very nice. They are a little bit sounded, even though on a quite natural way, because nothing felt too much. The bass was nice. Of course, it doesn't get super deep like on the very best ones, and it's not super detailed. And definitely, if I listen to these for an hour or half an hour or just a track and then switch to something better, like for example the Amiron Home, I feel just, especially due to the other one being open, the soundstage to open up. I just notice more details. I just notice the higher quality of what the drivers inside are just able to produce. Everything just gets more structured, better. But especially for around $200, I think these are a solid buy. Personally, I really like the sound. It's the comfort for me that actually makes a little bit more of an issue, and the fact that in Germany I can get this for 99 euros. So to sum it up, for 240, I don't see any reason to pay anything extra over the Mark II if you don't need the detachable cable, because in every other aspect they are so extremely similar, and I actually prefer the Mark II over the Mark III that I don't see a reason not to go for the Mark II. But $200. Now for 100 I would definitely recommend them without any issues, and if you can get them for that price or around that, I think they are a go, because they have a quite still light and open sound for a closed one. And of course we have to see the price level where we are. We are at $200. You just can't expect something for a little bit more that just offers way more, because if you go one step higher to roughly 300 and get something like an Akg 600, 650s, which are a little bit more expensive, I get that, but those are worth it because they are a noticeable jump up. So these are, I would say, really good 150 euro cans. But at 200, I think you are already just showing that you are that you are willing to pay a little bit more to get good sound. And if you then just spend, I know 50% doesn't seem like much, but a little, but if you spend those 50% more, you will just get into a different kind of sound experience, because the 600s or some similar ones, if I just look back, let me quickly check. For example, for 250 you could get something like the Mkii 99. Completely different sound experiences, because those are way more sounded and so on. But it just shows that quality-wise, there are alternatives. You have to check what you want. I think they do a really nice job for a reference headphone which stands there. But these days, with this one being a little bit older already, but with the Mark III, just not doing it quite right in that price department, because 200 is very, very, I would say, actually risky, because you get not that much something worse for noticeably less. For example, you can get the Yamaha MT5 for around 100, and I'm not gonna say these sound better, because I have to say these sound definitely more audiophile. They sound a little bit more open, not quite as sounded, because I know when back around, this is where that gets the confusing part. Back when I reviewed the MT5, I said they were very neutral and all that and this and that, which is not really the case anymore. I just know more now from experience. I still like the sound a lot. I really like the sound stage with the emphasized mids, where just everything stands out in terms of vocals so much, and great bass and so on. These don't have quite the bass, not quite the punch, but if you want something actually more satisfying, a little bit more mainstream lined, even though I said something else back then, MT5 was still a go. And just better in terms of value. And here, then there are already quite a few Sennheisers out there. I'm pretty sure some other brands as well that I just didn't try. And personally, out of my head, I don't really think, I can't think of anything that is comparable to these at this price point. So yes, they are legit. Go try them. But I'm just not fully convinced. I think that if you pay noticeably less, you won't get much less of experience. But if you pay a little bit more, you will actually make a noticeable jump. A significant jump maybe. And I'm just gonna try to get the German review done as quick as possible so I can get back to these, because this, along with the Emeron Home and the Sennheiser, these are just three that take up so much of my time at the moment, and they are awesome. I'm just saying, LCD 2C. I know, if you put them on, they look extreme, and there is something I think off with mine, maybe due to shipment something happened, because they make the spring sound that you heard. I'm not quite sure where it actually happens, because it doesn't happen every time. It's not really reproducible, but man, they are comfy. Yes, they are heavy, but they are but what I'm actually talking about, this is not that review. So if you find the AKG for under 150 and you are okay with the comfort and you want something slightly sounded but actually quite natural, yes. Mark III, I just don't see the point of making a Mark III if it haven't actually improved anything. I'm not quite sure what they should, just the replaceable cable and something a little bit more stiff in that regard, and just a few little refinements that most people would never notice, just don't make it. And I have to say, yes, if you would give me a blind test with one and the other, I would definitely hear the difference, because these just sound, the Mark II, a little bit more open, a little bit more clear, a little bit lighter. I just like that. Like I said, a little bit more bass and a little bit kind of softened, filtered highs. Then you're good to go with the Mark III and have the detachable cable. But for 230, you are just too close to the Sennheisers or similar ones that are just on an audiophile level. Not quite on this one. Weird review, I know. Like I said, today. Bye.